Step into the shopping center of the future, a world filled with exciting ideas. The 21st century is here today. Imagine more than 50 shops and restaurants on 5 different levels. Casual elegance in a breathtaking atmosphere. The shopping gallery in the Bonaventure Hotel is the new downtown Los Angeles. An experience you'll never forget.
All right, so everybody relax. Go get yourself a fresh cup of coffee. Sit back, kick up your feet, and I'll bring in the intro music. Thanks for coming back into Sunday Morning Coffee with me, Isaac the Boot Guy from YouTube, from the YouTube channel, The Boot Guy Reviews, where I single-handedly talk about boots, men's footwear, stuff like that, work pants. Yeah, that kind of stuff. Now, I get asked a lot, and I get a ton of emails and a ton of complaints on the channel about people saying that I don't put the prices on the boots, that I don't have it listed of where you can buy the boot. Point being is it's on the internet, right? I mean, you guys have commented time and time again, for people who do bring that up. Hey, aren't you watching this on the web? Aren't you just going to use a Google search? You guys do all that, and I love it. But the other question I get is, where's your shop at? Why can't I buy these from you? Which brings this whole topic of this week's discussion to a head. There it is. The death of retail in America. So let's do it right now.
My humble opinion, America was overstored, for starters. Secondly, the consumers' buying habits are changing. Thirdly, retailers, brick and mortar retailers, are really getting squeezed by costs that are going up, and people's buying habits are changing. They're buying more online. And if you don't keep up with the times, you have to close.
Charlie Munger said that, he's Warren Buffett's right-hand man. He said basically every company should be, if they're a retailer, if they're opening stores every year, they should be closing a certain number of stores every year, because they close the lowest performing stores. So I don't necessarily think that closing stores is a bad idea. It could be just good business.
All right, so for most of us, retail is running out to the shop to pick something up. Costco's retail, Target's retail, all this stuff is retail. But at the same time, we kind of forget, because in these advancing years of the internet era and everything, we forget about that there was once neighborhood shops, that there was ma and pop shops. Which, to be honest with you, isn't the worst thing in the world, that some of those little shops have gone away, because all they did was they keystoned the price of something and they tried to make their little bit off it. If you're an internet-based business, you can actually sell it for whatever let me go back. Let me rephrase that. If you're a business and you own the merchandise outright, you can sell it for whatever you wish. If you're a business and you're just renting the merchandise from the manufacturer on a contingency plan, then you have to sell it for what they suggest it for. There's a big difference there, and not a lot of people know that. I don't know why. I don't know why that's not a just relevant fact to how retail works in places. But beyond that, so the death of retail in America. If you were to watch the news over the last 5 years, what was the first big giant that started to close up shop? I mean, outside of Walmart, which goes into little towns, shuts down ma and pa, and does all that other stuff, and then makes everybody, makes them all have to come to the trough to eat, the Walmart trough, whenever they need anything for the house, groceries, or whatever they need. And then when they feel they're no longer getting anything out of the community, they just shut down the Walmart and they leave a big vacant hole where nobody can get the products or the services that they need that a retail store would provide. But the mom and pop shop, But the mom and pop shops, the neighborhood shops, the places where if you're of a certain age, if you're at least over the age of 40, you remember neighborhood shopping. You remember the weekends going down to, if you live in a small town, going downtown to your little downtown to go visit your sporting goods store. So mom could pick you up some new underwear. So dad could get himself a new pair of boots at the local shoe shop. All these places gone away. At least they've gone away en masse. They might still exist in a minimal capacity. You might still have a place or two where you can go and there's a little men's store or a little ladies shop. And there might even be a few independently owned shoe stores. But more than likely, everything is just clumped together in these huge conglomerates of retailness. That's not a word. Retailness is not a word. I'm just using that to describe it. I should use a word like commerce or a conglomerate of haberdashers or something like that. I should be using bigger words, right? Retailness is fine. Retailness works. So with the closing of all these big shops, you've got Kmart's that are closing up. You've got, latest is Toys R Us. Toys R Us. Do people stop having kids? Are we living in the era of the children of men where just birth rates have dropped? Well, personally, I know that's not right because I see the attendance at all the schools and it's just climbing and climbing and climbing. But with that, Toys R Us. Where are kids going to get their toys? Oh, wait a second, I forgot. Kids don't play with toys anymore. The manufactured representation of a thing just doesn't exist for children anymore. Everything has become digital, and that's a great thing. I mean, from an economic standpoint and an environmental standpoint, the fact that we're mining fewer and fewer materials, molting plastics and stuff like that to make these toxic toys. If you think toys are toxic, then yeah, then it's a good thing that Toys R Us is going out. But is it a good thing? Now, I haven't been in a Toys R Us up until this past Christmas. It's got to be like 15 years. Maybe it's even 20 years. Hold on. Everybody, stop for a second and let's have a sip of coffee. Let's clear our throats and let's get back. So this past Christmas, me and my wife gave our nieces and nephews the ability to go into a store and spend $100. And they could pick the store, they could split it up between stores, but they had $100 to spend from us. And we wanted to take them. We wanted them to use the money for what they wanted. We just didn't want to hand them a $100 bill. We wanted them to go. So my nephew said he wanted to go to Toys R Us. I took him. Now, my first time in one of these places, like I said, 20 years, maybe more. I was shocked. It wasn't that I was shocked because of all the toys. I was shocked because of the lack of people. And we're talking 2 weeks before Christmas. And it's 2 weeks before Christmas. I'm there, and aisles are empty. The parking lots are empty. The few people that are in there are in Toys R Us kind of divided itself, which I would have had no idea, and somebody could explain this to me, years from now, and I'd be like, I have no idea what you're talking about. But I guess Toys R Us divided themselves between age groups and dividing up the kids into different age groups and the toys that were appropriate to the age group. So for the older kids, they had a lot of bikes, a lot of scooters, rollerblades, drones, more mediocre sporting equipment. I mean, they didn't have a good basketball in that place to save their lives. They didn't even have a league ball from what I remember. Nothing that was an actual official league ball in that place. And the bikes were all mediocre too. I mean, nothing more expensive than $200 or $300 and just built like crap. Everything was just mediocre. Okay, and all right, so that's that. And so it's broken down between that. But what took over 50%, and remember, this is a discussion about retail and understanding how retail works and why retail is dying. So some of these topics might seem a little odd if you're not in front of the retail problem and question, but just stick around, just bear with me. Just 50% of their floor space was broken up to toddlers, babies, and stuff like that. And they had little baby clothes, like clothes that would fit, I guess, 0 to 24 months. So that's like birth to 2-year-olds. Clothes for that, diapers, bottles, strollers. It was more like it was a shop that was geared towards complete children's needs. And there's a few good strollers. I did, mind you, when I told them I'd take you to Toys R Us, when we walked in that door, I looked him in the eye. I said, buddy, listen, take your time. Don't rush at all. I'm going to go check out the video games. I'm going to go see what the drones look like. I'm going to enjoy this time checking out toys for the first time in a long time as much as you. So take your time. So we were in there for a good hour and a half. And I got the chance to kind of roam the place around and just check things out. Strollers and high chairs and stuff like that. It was all there. There was one or two good ones, but like I said before, with all the older kid stuff, baseballs, footballs, basketballs, the things that you would expect there to be a real high-end model of something there really wasn't. It was all mediocre stuff. So in hindsight, it's easy for me to see how a place like that, where everything comes packaged, there's no fresh items, everything in there comes in boxes, everything comes shipped in a box and then gets taken out of the box and still exists in a box and is still encased in some sort of packaging and plastic. It's understandable that Amazon could put them out of business in a second. It's understandable that there's just so many other ways of getting these things online that could just put them out of business quickly. Now, when you think about that idea, and that's the argument that so many people use when it comes to death of retail in America, is the new online presence of buying everything online. But if you're a Luddite, you're looking at the internet as a pain in the ass. You're looking at internet shopping as a pain in the ass. And every time somebody says that there's something wrong with internet shopping, your ears perk up. You become attentive to what that person is saying, and you really, really, truly want to agree with them because you think that you found somebody who you can share this idea with. The truth to the matter is that you're just a Luddite and you're not growing forward, and you feel the need to bitch and complain about shopping online, about convenience. And that's really what it is there are products that are manufactured products that never need to be put onto a shelf and stored in a store that you have to walk into, put into your cart, take it to the register, and get wrung out. They're just things that are truly better off left being shipped to the house. Let's take a break.
Outside the city of New York, in the bedroom communities and small towns like this one, there's a lot of retail space available as well, and it's for the same reasons. Pressure from the internet, pressure from big stores that are still successful like Walmart, and very often when mom and pop retire, the kids don't want to take on the old family business, and so the available space sign hangs here for a very long time.
So how do I feel about the big box stores closing up and going out of business? Honestly, I love it. I am glad to see Sears going out of business. I am glad to see Best Buy going out of business. I'm glad to see Toys R Us going out of business. I would really like to see a lot of these spaces that are occupied by these big, huge companies be turned into schools that actually teach people how to do things again. But that's another topic for another time. Trade schools, which don't really exist anymore. That's what I want to see, and I see those as the perfect spaces and scaling of the spaces where we can do that again, where we can teach people how to build things. But back on topic, death of retail, right? happy to see them all go away. I'm happy to see that evolution happen in our buying habits. I'm happy to see the holes open up in the market. Now, the thing about retail is you walk into Target, if you think about this, the next time you walk into a big retail store, even if it's a Home Depot or a Lowe's, that there is a grid that exists for those stores, and everything that you see is laid out according to a grid. Now, some are a little less lenient than others, and some really stick to that grid. When you think about how floor space is occupied in all these spaces, it is all laid out. It is all premeditated. The way you see things when you walk into a store is premeditated for you to feel a certain way. There are psychologists behind this that are thinking all day long about consumer buying habits and how to lay out the store's square footage so that, one, you buy more, two, it strikes a memory in you, and three, you want to come back and see things change. Because if you've ever noticed, most of the time when they're really changing displays, they don't do it after hours anymore. That has nothing to do with pay scale and having to pay somebody to stay after. It has to do with you, the public, seeing things happen. What's going on? And if they've got your attention, you're going to want to watch and see it happen.
Or you go into the store.
Now, I realized that I might have just made that sound like a bad thing, but it's not a bad thing because it's that curation of merchandise that makes us all want to return back to retail and see things happen. On a website, it's just pictures, and that's the argument between buying stuff online and buying stuff in a store, is that I can't touch it, I can't feel it. Well, I understand that. When it comes to footwear and it comes to boots, buying boots online is tough. It is probably next to looking at underwear online and deciding whether or not you get enough ballroom in this underwear, or whether or not when you sit down in the truck to go somewhere, that if this underwear is going to creep up your ass and are you going to feel uncomfortable for the next 20 miles. You really can't do a review of underwear in any sort of real sense. Or can you? I mean, Jesus, should I start doing reviews? Okay, I'm off track. Hold on. Let me get back. Let me just roll. So when it comes to buying boots online, you almost, it's really tough. You have to have had the boot prior, or you have to be willing to take that chance. And that's what the future of retail looks like. It's us willing to take that chance in ordering this stuff online. Now, the thing that I really like seeing happening is I like seeing the small communities that have completely been decimated by big box stores and other facets of the retail. I mean, just think about the stories when we talk about Walmart, when people, this hasn't come up in a long time, but it's still, this underlying thread still exists out there on the net within forums and discussions and stuff. The evils of Walmart and how bad Walmart was when it would come into a town and close up the hardware store, close up the little retail clothing shop, close up the grocery store, and Walmart would take all that business away. But here's the thing, okay, is that was a 20-year-old argument. And what happened with that argument is that all that stuff went away and left these vacant holes that nobody has filled yet. In my own neighborhood, okay, a week ago, I walked up into, I live in a part of Chicago that's called Old Irving Park. I'm really close, as you've seen in a lot of my videos, I'm really close to both the train lines, the Metro line that can take me out towards the far suburbs of Chicago and into other places right to the borderline of Wisconsin. And I have the CTA train that takes me down into the city and along that pathway. I mean, there's so many other neighborhoods. But in my own neighborhood, and this is going back last week, I walked from Old Irving Park all the way up into Jefferson Park because I wanted to go to my alderman's office in order to sit down and talk with his business developers about opening up a studio space for what I do. I wanted to create this space, but I didn't want to pay the rent that people are asking for the properties, for the spaces. I mean, it's ridiculous to think about what they want for 1,000 square feet. Just along the way, places that are holes in the wall, they're asking $1,200 to $1,800 for 1,000 square feet of space. Did I just say that right? Did I say speed of space? 1,000 square feet of space. Wow, that was bad. Where does that fall into? How are you going to fill retail in a dying market when those are the prices that you're asking for? So along my walk, as I'm heading towards the alderman's office, I counted 45 vacant spots within a 2.5-mile walk. That's a lot of vacant spots. Now, I walked through a major shopping district and I walked along a major shopping corridors between, at one time. So let's go back a little bit further into a little history of the north side of Chicago. The north side of Chicago at one time was based all in shopping districts. You had Belmont Cragen, you had Six Corners, you had Jefferson Park, you had Albany Park, you had, I'm forgetting there's another one that's off a little bit further east, and I'm forgetting it right now. Lincoln Square, okay? So you've had these shopping districts. As it sits today, Lincoln Square is still thriving. Lincoln Square is beautiful. If you're ever coming to Chicago and you want to see some real low-key, down-home type Chicago shops, Lincoln Square is outstanding. We have a beautiful German grocery store there called Jean's Meat Market that is just outstanding. The products in there are great. Beer selection is awesome. Whiskey selection is awesome. I'm going to stop there because this is not an ad for Jean's. But there's a place where you can still see old school Chicago neighborhood shopping happen. Now, where I am in Old Irving Park, I border what's called the Six Corners shopping area. And this area has been closing down. Every year they lose 2 or 3 businesses. We just lost a major anchor business called Hats Plus, which was a wonderful place to get all kinds of crazy hats and beautiful hats. I mean, from Stetsons to Kangos to Dobbs. Just if you were into hats, that was the place you went. They couldn't support the retail space anymore. They had to close up shop and move on. But from that shopping district to Jefferson Park, these two, Six Corners and Jefferson Park, were connected by Milwaukee Avenue. Now, Milwaukee Avenue in Chicago, if you want to look on a map, you can see how long Milwaukee Avenue is. It's an extremely long street, and it's exceptionally long. But just in this small little area, these two major points of shopping through the 60s, 70s, and into the 80s, and it all died in the 90s. There was a lot of shops. I mean, there was places that were open till 9, 10 o'clock at night. There was always something going on. Now, every place that's left, if it's not a bar or if it's not a gas station, it's closed up by 5 o'clock and everybody goes home, and there's nowhere for anybody in the neighborhood to spend their money. Everybody wants to go, or I shouldn't say that. Everybody is forced to go to the mall. If I'm counting 45 empty retail spaces within a 3-mile walk of 2 major streets, where did everybody go? It seems like everybody's gone to the malls. It seems like the malls were this big driving force for retail. I mean, can you think of anything better than a mall? It's indoors, if you're lucky enough to have an indoor mall. It's indoors, it's climate control. All the shops are there. There's places to sit outside of the mall and just hang out and enjoy your time and just spend time inside the mall. It was a great concept, a beautiful idea. I mean, there's so much that happened in malls over the last 45 or 50 years, and now they too are gone. And people are blaming the internet for that also. I disagree. I think it's just us. I think that we have evolved past the mall, past the big box store, that we are finally reclaiming our own time of what belongs to us and not giving it to manufacturers and not giving it to manufacturers' middlemen. Let's say that. We're still giving our time to manufacturers every time we look online, but we're no longer having to depend on the middlemen who want to strike up deals with the manufacturers in order to house their products for them. That we are getting our time back. We can spend a little time shopping online. We can buy something. We can shut down our phone, shut down our computer, and we can go enjoy dinner with the family. We don't have to get in the car and travel nowhere anymore, unless we want to. And if you really want to do that, then it's probably for a very specific product that you need. But we've gained more time. And that's why the death of retail is probably a good thing. Now, what it does open up, it opens up all kinds of new ways of shipping products, of delivering products, all kinds of new transportation type things for products. Just think of everything that has come up in the last few years because of the internet. Uber, Lyft, Uber Eats, Lyft delivers. You know, we used to only be pizza delivery guys and a couple of Chinese restaurants that would deliver food. Now everybody delivers food. Everybody delivers their goods. Everybody delivers their wares. It's this delivery world that we live in, this world of convenience. We have evolved to a species that actually is starting to understand and appreciate their own time and place within the whole of their existence. And that's a beautiful thing. And if you really stop and think about that, that's a beautiful thing. All right, I realized that maybe I just rambled, and I realized that maybe I didn't really answer any questions, and I honestly believe that it's not the internet that has killed retail. I think it's us that has killed retail. I think it's us evolving into this new creature of purchasing and buying and stuff like that, that we have become this new thing. And the world of retail just needs to adapt to us. And that's why you see so many great little shops popping up. So many shops where people understand that if you're going to leave the house to spend your money, not only do you want to spend your money, but you want to be entertained at the same time, or you want to be impressed with somebody's creativity and ability to curate merchandise and ideas into a cohesive visual sense. What does all that mean? You want to see nice displays with pretty colors and good merchandise. Basically, little retail, all those little shops that got closed up by Walmart, all 45 of those empty stores that exist along Milwaukee Avenue that I was walking up, they all have huge possibilities if it was only made easier for creative people to get in there and start shops. Now, I've been approached over the last 2 years by many investors if I want to take what I've done as the Boot Guy Reviews and turn it into a retail store in the city, considering that the city of Chicago has 4 places for a guy to actually go buy high quality work boots from. 5 now. Sorry, that's 5. I keep forgetting about the new Red Wing store that's down on Clybourne. There's 5 places in the city for a guy to go buy a good pair of boots from. And that's kind of sick, in my opinion, with as many blue-collar workers as we have in this city, that there's only 5 retail spaces that have decided that they're going to cater to their needs. Now, you guys know as well as I do, when it comes to buying a shirt and comes to buying a pair of jeans, there's all kinds of places to go to. And I'm only talking about Chicago. Outside of the city, I know there's lots of places for guys to buy clothes, because when I'm driving to Wisconsin, or if I got to work in Indiana or something like that, I see places and I'm just really impressed, and I stop in and I look at the quality of the stuff. I'm like, this is really good. Why is this not happening in Chicago? Why do all my Chicago guys have to drive out here in order to get something? And there's a lot of reasons, taxes and just how much it costs to run a shop in Chicago and just things like that. Chicago's not very friendly to business no matter what they tell you. But that's where the curation of business could come into play. That's where if the government, oh man, I hate saying this, but if the government would get on the side of the small businessman and woman, business person, I don't want to offend anybody there because I've already offended enough people with my unboxing video. If they would get on their side, just in the city of Chicago alone, that we could have a better retail experience for the citizens. Hopefully someday they realize that all these empty stores, they can be turned into places for people to pick up stuff that they want that they can't find anywhere else. More specialty stores. That's what I think is going to happen. That's what I know is going to happen.
Digital strategy is absolutely where it's at. It's driving a traffic not only to your physical stores, but getting them to show up on your website, getting them to have an engaging experience so that they want to buy and transact with you. They want to come and connect and want to be a part of your community. So you absolutely have to have a solid digital strategy to stay in business today, because that's what people expect and that's what people want.
Thanks a lot for listening. This has been another episode of Sunday Morning Coffee with me, Isaac the Boot Guy. It might have seemed like I was rambling, but small business and retail is something I'm really passionate about. Getting people to understand that their small business doesn't need to be contingent just on the old-fashioned ideas, that we can use new fashion ideas. We can use this internet. We can use all the tools that are available for free and some that can be paid for in order to make our businesses more successful, to make our products more successful, and to make just the communities that we exist in more successful, because we're putting better information out there and we're creating better products and services for people. Remember, if you're going to download this on SoundCloud, please like it also on SoundCloud. If you're watching or listening to the podcast on YouTube, please remember to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already done it. If you have any questions or if you have anything to add to this, please feel free. Call my number. You can see the voicemail there. You can get my voicemail number off my website, thebootguy.com. I have it set up in a Sunday Morning Coffee podcast section in the top of the menu bar. All week long, you guys have been sending me emails about the last podcast. I really appreciate that. That was really awesome. I was glad to hear a lot of you guys call. That was super. And I think that's it. So thanks a lot for listening. This has been Sunday Morning Coffee with me, Isaac the Boot Guy. I'll see you next week. All right, bye-bye.